thank you all for joining me and my guest today, Stephanie Parra, for our second conversation in the conversation series. Hey, Stephanie.
Hey, how are you?
Really well. How are you?
Good. I'm super excited to talk to you guys.
Amazing. We're so excited to have you here. So I see some of the attendees were here for our very first conversation, but a few of you weren't. So just to touch really quickly on what that first conversation was about, we focused primarily on the importance of educating your customers and your staff about your food sourcing criteria. Most of us are in the good food industry. We're trying to source really high quality ingredients and serve our community the best quality food that we can and that they can afford. And we talked about the importance of communicating that to them. And as part of the conversation, we talked about knowing your target audience and who your ideal customer is. And I'm not an expert in that area, which is why I just touched on it. And why in the second conversation, I've invited Stephanie, who is an expert in this area, to come and join us and talk more about how to identify your ideal customer, where to find them in real life and online, and then how to communicate with them effectively. So Stephanie is a food business consultant, and she focuses on helping brand new businesses launch successfully. And obviously this is a very important ingredient in doing so. So Stephanie, again, thank you so much for being here with us. We are super excited to have you. And I'm going to let you take it away. Before that, actually, ladies, if you have a question at any point, feel free to use the chat tool. You should be able to access it from the menu bar for the webinar. I'll moderate for Stephanie. So if you have a question, we can pause and ask that question at an appropriate time. Or if you want to raise your hand, you can do that as well, and I can open up your audio and you can actually get into conversation with Stephanie or myself as we go along. I think that the conversation will run probably between 30 to 45 minutes, but we've got an hour. So ask questions. Don't be shy. We are here to help you as much as we can. So without further ado, Stephanie, let's jump into it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody for joining us. So I really want to talk about, like, first of all, why is this topic even relevant? Like, why is this important? And we can go to the next slide and sort of introduce this, right?
I'm in charge of the slides. Let's see. It was working. It was working properly before. Here we go.
Okay, so if you have a pen and paper, this is the perfect time to grab that, because you are going to be taking notes. You are going to be answering some questions on your pen and paper, or on your paper, not with your, whatever. You are going to be answering questions, because I think this is such an important topic for you guys, just to lay your foundation. And even if you are an existing established business, you can still benefit so much from identifying your ideal client, because then you make your message super tight and super clear, and you actually reach the people that you want to reach, and you serve the people that you want to serve. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why, again, this is so important. And then Sarah, you can go ahead and, yeah, thank you. So identifying your ideal client means that you are able to speak to your customers' pain points and market a solution to them. When you are able to provide a solution with your food business, then you are able to make money. Very simple. Identifying your ideal client is also super important, because you'll know exactly who you're speaking to. And because of this, you'll know where to find them and how to communicate with them naturally, organically, effectively. Okay? And also, your ideal client is actually your most profitable client. You're going to have a lot of different kinds of people coming to your business, but your ideal client is the one who will be a loyal paying customer and who will also gladly refer their friends and family to you for added business. Okay? So I do want to give an example, and we will dive deeper into this as the presentation goes on. Okay, guys? So when I used to have a meal prep business, I identified my ideal client as being a health-conscious pregnant woman or a new mother who was either too busy or too tired to cook, or simply didn't really cook anyway and didn't know how to cook healthy meals for themselves and their family. Okay, that was my ideal client. So getting super clear on my ideal client from the start helped me set the right foundation for how I was going to market this meal prep business, who I was going to approach, and where I was going to find them, okay? So the first person that I sold meal prep meals to was my former boss, who was a pregnant lady at the time and who was also going to Mommy and Me classes, okay? I made sure that my meal prep was on point, and I made sure I had a system in place for her to order seamlessly, and I delivered, okay? My boss at the time was my ideal client, and she spread the word about my service to the owner of the Mommy and Me circle, and now that mommy became my client. So the owner gave me, rave testimonials, and I was able to keep on getting clients just from my very first ideal customer, which was my boss. So this concept, whether you are starting again, whether you're established, whether you have a cafe, a restaurant, an online sort of marketplace, if you're a home baker, it doesn't really matter what you are in the food industry. This concept is the same across the board, okay? And again, your ideal client will look different from someone else's based on the concept you have and what you serve, okay? So now, I do want to ask you a question, and you can raise your hand. Have you ever felt like you were just kind of blindly promoting yourself and seeing like who came to the door? Or like how you were just kind of like throwing stuff on the wall and seeing like what stuck? And do you wish you had more of a strategy behind how you market your food business to attract the right people who will buy from you over and over? So raise your hand if you feel like you were just kind of like throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what stuck. If that's you, okay, so we got a couple. Awesome. Yep. So after today's conversation, I think you'll have a better idea on who that person could be for you, that ideal client. And I use the words customer and client interchangeably. So that's just, so it means the same thing, but you'll have a better idea of who they are and how you can market to them, okay? So let's go to our first key point, which is identifying your ideal client.
Sorry.
Okay. So we have two schools of thought when it comes to marketing to your client, and this is both on and offline, okay, guys? So the first school of thought is getting super crazy specific on who that person is. And the second school of thought is understanding their pain points, their obstacles, and their struggles in their lives. So when I work with my clients, we actually take both schools of thought into consideration to get this clarity on your ideal client. Okay, so, pen and paper time, you guys. So here's what I want you to do, and you can do this now, or you can do this after the webinar to kind of like think about it a lot more, but I would really suggest you guys take some notes. So what I want you to do is to create an ideal client profile. So think about their age, their gender, their lifestyle. Are they an athlete? Are they a busy professional? Are they a single mother? Like, who are they? And what is their income range? Okay, so that's the first step. Second step is identify what pain points they have. And let me explain this more, okay? So what pain points do they have that your food business can solve? In other words, how does your food business benefit their lives? How does your food business fit into their lives? So again, using my own example, when I was a really busy, crazy working chef, I still am, but I had my own food business at the time. So using that same example with my ideal client profile for the people that I wanted to serve, which was busy mothers or mothers-to-be and new mothers who didn't have the time, the energy, or the know-how to cook healthy meals during this crucial time in their lives. And Sarah, you can actually go to the next slide because then we illustrate the pain points there. So the pain points was one, they had no time, they had no energy, and they didn't know how to do something, which was maybe cook, right? So the solutions that I provided with my food business, the solutions that I provided where I created healthy meals from scratch for the whole week. I had a software system online that they could easily order from with different options each week. So they got actually like a very, very nutritious sort of options each week. And then I delivered to them for an affordable fee. So this way they could order food for themselves, but also their family if they needed to. So this was kind of like, it was obviously for them, but if they needed to order food for their family, like their husbands or whomever, that was available too, right? So, and I did want to kind of go over this again, which is, of course, you might have different versions of ideal clients as you grow. But I always love to focus on the one, which version needs the least amount of education about their own pain points. Okay, so let me repeat that because that's such an important point. So you might have different versions, all right, in your business, different versions of ideal customers, but ask yourself, which version needs the least amount of education about their own pain points? So even if someone fits your ideal client profile, even if they, if they fit the ideal client profile, if they are not in the mindset to make a purchase from you, it's better not to market to them right now, okay? So instead, focus on those who specifically are aware of their problems, of their obstacles, of their struggles, and are ready to take action on that, okay? So again, we're gonna keep using my meal prep example because I feel like it really illustrates the point. So, the pregnant women and new mothers I was targeting as my ideal client were well aware that they were low on time, energy, and maybe even cooking knowledge. But they were also health conscious at whatever level that was, whatever that meant to them. So these ladies were also professionals who had a disposable enough income to buy weekly meal prep, okay? So these are like the facts, right? So now, these women were well aware of their pain points and aware of the solutions that were out there in the world, okay? They could have easily gone with hundreds of other meal prep services out there, but none of those companies were speaking to them specifically as mothers, okay? Super important. There are tons of meal prep companies out there who do healthy food for busy professionals who don't cook, who can't cook, but none of them were targeting mothers-to-be or new mothers, okay? So that is the difference right there. And again, awareness is a big part of it. It plays such a huge part in who your ideal client can be. But more importantly, they feel that their pain point is urgent enough that they're ready to take action to solve it. So I'm gonna take another example that doesn't have to do with meal prep, okay? And really doesn't have to be as deep as what I was just talking about. But like, let's say you have a healthy vegan Mediterranean cafe right near an office complex with tons of young professionals who are looking for healthy options during lunchtime, okay? So this is perfect for you if you have a cafe, a restaurant, some other type of brick and mortar situation. So for this example, their pain points could be that they want, number one, healthy options. They want vegan options. They are pressed for time, which is why they don't bring lunch. Or simply they don't know how to cook, which is another reason why they don't bring lunch. And they have a 30-minute lunch break. So they need something super close by and super quick. All right, so given those two examples, the meal prep example and the healthy vegan Mediterranean cafe example, I want you to start identifying these pain points that your ideal client could have and write down how you offer solutions to those pain points. And again, this can be something that you do after the webinar if you want to take extra thought, because you really should. But if you have some ideas now and your brain is just going, I think you should definitely start jotting stuff down. Cool. So a big part of it is actually, if you're like a brick and mortar or you want to have a brick and mortar one day, a big part of finding your ideal client is actually kind of just observing what is around you and who is in your community, right? So it's like basically saying, who can you best serve with your location, your concept, and even your strengths and your talents, right? So I want to stop right here because I feel like I just said so much stuff, and I want to see if you guys have any questions.
You guys can raise your hands if you have a question and I can open up your audio, or you can enter the question through the chat if you have one. Doesn't look like there's any questions just yet.
Okay, awesome. We will have time for questions at the end as well. So, okay, so if you guys don't have any questions about identifying your ideal client, we're gonna go to key point number 2, which is where to find your ideal client. Okay. Alrighty. All right, cool. So I'm just making sure that I am looking at the same slide as you. All right, so where to find your ideal client. So super important, find where your ideal client is hanging out both on and offline. Okay, so offline is actually a bit simpler to identify because you know, this could depend on your physical location and if you have a brick and mortar, or if you have a stand at the farmer's market or anything like that, if you do a pop-up, whatever it may be. Because usually you can be physically present, you can interact with other customers, and you start building relationships with them. And you start to see like the people who are regulars, who have tried your food, who bring other people back and, you know, recommend. So it's a lot easier in a way to do this in like offline, okay? So I do want to say though, you can't just focus on offline relationship building. Online relationship building is key as well. And I feel like if you are not using the free marketing tools that are Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it may be, if you are not using those free marketing tools, you are missing out on money. You are leaving money on the table, you guys, okay? So online marketing is super key. And online, you have to identify where your ideal client is hanging out. So of course, once you actually identify your ideal client, start to see, okay, where are they hanging out? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it some other platform out there? And you, of course, will have to do a bit of research to see where they are. And you are going to have to start creating marketing content that speaks to them, to their pain points, right? So back to the example, my ideal client for my meal prep company was on Instagram and Facebook, okay? So for Facebook, this came in the form of, you know, mommy networking groups, and, you know, I would go in and introduce myself and talk about my business. On Instagram, the owner of the Mommy and Me group that I mentioned before put up some video testimonials. This is so valuable, you guys, of each meal that she was eating that day, and she gave reviews. And I cannot tell you how important and how valuable video is as part of online marketing. So she did this for me. This is crazy, right? And so of course, I shared that on my own IG business profile so that my audience could see these amazing testimonials. And of course, it boosted my credibility, my authority as a meal prep chef for pregnant and new mothers. And of course, this got me new clients. So when you do your online marketing, use every tool available on the platform that your ideal client is hanging out on. So whether that's posting, whether that's video, whether that's going live, whether that's like IG stories or Facebook stories, anything like that, all of those tools are super valuable. And that same energy that you have physically offline, building relationships with your customers at your cafe, your pop-up, whatever it may be, that has to be translated and transferred to your online relationship building. Okay, guys? And again, please use these free marketing tools. Like, seriously, this is the best stuff out there. And it's even better when you start asking people who are your regulars, people who love your stuff, ask them for a testimonial. Say, hey, like, really simple. And usually people are very happy to give you testimonials. All you have to say is, hey, like, if you really enjoyed my product, I would love if you did a testimonial that I can share. And usually people are like super happy to do it. All right, guys. So find where they're at, start engaging with your potential or ideal customers, and create marketing content that's actually going to speak to them, right? And this includes videos, posting, IG stories, all of that stuff, okay? So if you guys have any questions about this particular point, feel free to ask them. If not, we can obviously go into our next third point.
We have a question.
Yay, okay.
So this is from Kim. She says, I began selling wholesale to businesses, but am now starting more pop-up events and weekly farmers markets with my cottage baked goods.
Okay.
How do I transition my focus online in particular now that my ideal client is changing?
Okay, so good question, because I feel like your ideal client, like you have a certain ideal client on your platform, whether that's Instagram or Facebook, whatever it may be. And so now you feel like, okay, I have to change, like I'm changing my thing and I'm going to lose those people that I had maybe, right? I say it's okay to lose those people. It's okay to be absolutely polarizing in that way if you are changing niches. Because the niche that you're doing now is the niche that you're focusing on now 100%. When you do video, when you do postings, when you do all of that, that is going to polarize your audience. Yes, you might lose followers, but those followers are no longer your audience. Okay? So the people who are now your audience are the people that you want to focus on. The people who you want to speak to, market to, and have as clients and customers are the people that you want to focus on. So it's okay to be totally polarizing, as long as you keep your message consistent and just say like, you know what, like I'm not doing this anymore. I'm now doing this, and this is where my focus is at. Okay.
Would you recommend sort of an announcement that she be very upfront and vocal about the change? Do you have any kind of, I'm narrowing in on that word transition for her, just to, if you have any tips on transitioning her focus.
I want to give you an example from my own experience. So when I started out being a business coach in the online space, I was actually a food and wine blog, right? And so when I started to see that I wanted to do food business coaching full time, I actually transitioned my own business profile from the food and wine blog into my food coaching platform. And yes, of course, I did lose some people because I was no longer focusing on doing just food and wine reviews and stuff like that. But that's okay, because the people that were still interested in what I had to say stayed on my platform. So that transition, I did make an announcement. So I think it's really up to you on how you want to handle that and what feels comfortable for you. But I personally did make an announcement, and I was like, hey, I really thought about this, and I really wanted to let you guys know that I have, I'm opening this up into my food coaching business. And whoever had to leave, left. But the people that I really wanted to attract, the people that I wanted to work with long-term and sustainably, was my new audience. Okay?
I'm going to add just a note. So transitioning your information. So if you're talking about having a Facebook page, if you're talking about having an Instagram profile, changing the information that describes your business would be one step that I heard you say. Another one, make an announcement. I think another way to kind of think about it is like, be excited. Like, hey guys, I'm doing pop-up events now, in a sense, you used to be only able to get my products via retail stores, and now I'm coming at you in a whole new way, becoming more accessible, however you kind of want to present that to people. And I think maybe behind the scenes stuff, as you were saying, video and different things could be helpful in a transition as well. And then we actually received a question in advance of the webinar. I believe that Kim may have sent this one in advance too, so thank you for bringing it up during the conversation. But Sarah, who is the owner of a smoked seafood business, she wondered about, she's got a very remote location. So she doesn't really have an in real life connection to a lot of her customers. And so her question was primarily, how does she find customers via online? And something you and I had talked about, Stephanie, before this conversation was the use of like hashtags and doing some research. Can you share a little bit about that with our attendees?
Absolutely. So again, all of this stuff comes from my own experience and my own clients' experience, and I wouldn't tell you stuff that didn't get me results personally and my clients' results personally. So when you don't have like a physical location, you are online like me. Once you identify your ideal client, and like what platform you use. So, let's take Instagram, for example. So identify your ideal client. If they're using Instagram, jump on Instagram and start searching hashtags that you think your ideal client are also searching and hanging out on. And look at the profiles that pop up. Okay, so this is going to be this next part, and we'll go over hashtags in just a bit. But this part is going to be like jumping out of your comfort zone. Okay, so keep this in mind, and I really suggest you do this, guys. It's so important. So jump out of your comfort zone, and if you find a profile, and let's take an example. So maybe for like the smoked salmon example, like they're trying to find their ideal client. Maybe you can try a hashtag that says, I don't know who their ideal client would be, so I'm going to make up a scenario. So let's say they are a home cook, and they're really into like artisan sort of food and high quality food and things like that. And maybe they've had their own, try at making smoked salmon. So they're really into smoked salmon. Okay. So maybe your hashtag could be smoked salmon, like hashtag smoked salmon, hashtag home cook, hashtag I make my own smoked salmon, hashtag whatever, hashtag home chef, anything that is kind of like along the lines of whatever your ideal client could be searching, hashtag smoked salmon recipes.
Right. So if they're using your product, or if they're using something similar to your product right now, they're obviously a potential customer. And so, so looking for those tags and the people who are using them will give you insight. That's a great tip.
100%. So anybody that's just kind of like doing that variation, those variations of hashtags, and you just kind of like research them and just look at the profiles that pop up and see, and just kind of look at those people and see if they could be a warm lead for you. If they are a warm lead for you, say hi. Super simple. Comment on their pictures. If you see something that you genuinely really like about their profile or a picture that they put up, say like, hey, like your smoked salmon looks amazing. Or like your smoked salmon dip looks divine, whatever. Whatever it may be, just say something super genuine about them, because the whole point is building relationships. You're not selling anything right off the bat, you guys, okay? So don't think you're going in this selling your stuff. You are just building a relationship. I always tell my clients, go in with the mindset that you're building a relationship. Go in with the mindset that you genuinely want to connect with these people. you are not selling anything to them. If your conversation with them is good, they're going to want to check you out. Okay? So say hi, jump out of your comfort zone, say hello, start a conversation, and be genuine in your approach. And of course, you are building relationships through this conversation for people who you think are your ideal clients. And, you know, at the end of a couple of weeks or something, because relationship building is not a day to night thing. Relationship building takes a while. Okay. So if you find that they're not really your ideal client, then it's okay to like unfollow them or like whatever it may be, but you need to have patience with this approach because nothing is day to night. Your business doesn't grow day to night unless like some kind of superstar advertises it or something, right? But like, again, this is like a super, like this is the long game, you guys. Building relationships for your food business is a long game. If you don't see yourself building these relationships, then your business might not be sustainable and it might not be something that you want to do long term. So just think about that as well. So yeah, Sarah, did you want to add anything to that?
I don't think so. I think that those are really great points. I think I'm just kind of piecing it together too in my mind, kind of connecting the different things you're saying. And so I'll just repeat: building a relationship in the DMs or in their comments, and then on your own feed and in your own stories, you're creating content that is targeted to your ideal client. And I think if you see that person, right, that you're interacting with now interacting with your content, following along with you, I think that maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's a way to identify, okay, this is really potentially an ideal client. And so we'll keep engaging and we'll keep building that relationship. And those that I followed who aren't really interacting with me at all and aren't really paying attention to what I'm doing, then you can kind of cross them off that list of.
Yeah.
I love it.
Exactly.
Super helpful.
100%. Yeah. And then the thing too is I want to point out that's what I feel like a really underrated concept in food business is that consistency to keep on building relationships, to keep on creating content, whether it's posting or IG stories, to show up every day for your business and for your clients. That consistency is so key, and building relationships all day, every day through your content. Okay.
Great.
Awesome. So for this part, I want you to take out your pen and paper and jot down where you think they're hanging out. So jot down, is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it something else? And then you can also start jotting down hashtags that you think you can start searching that they're also searching and hanging out on.
And I think the Facebook groups that you mentioned too is really important. Perhaps not for every type of food business, but that was something that I just recently discovered myself. Like there are a lot of business owners that could use my help that are hanging out in Facebook groups about profitability and food costing and how to build a business and things like that. And so there are, food lovers and smoked seafood lovers, and there are groups of all types on Facebook. So
100%.
It's something worth looking into, even if you don't have any ideas about that off the top of your head. I loved that idea.
Exactly. Yeah. Facebook groups are super important. I have gotten some clients off of Facebook groups. And even if I didn't get clients off of Facebook groups, I was able to just research who they were and what they were into, and like what they were saying and like what they were, just their interests and stuff. So I'm like, okay, so I can sort of tailor my stuff like this or tailor my stuff like that.
Awesome.
So, yeah, super worth it. All right. So if there's any questions about this second point, feel free to ask them. If not, I'm happy to move on to the third point, you guys.
No questions at the moment.
Okay, cool. Okay. So the third point is how to communicate with your ideal customer once you've identified them and once you've identified where they're actually hanging out. Okay, so you need those first two steps for the third step. Okay. So after you've figured out where they're hanging out, both on and offline, we need to talk to them. We need to market to them and build those relationships. So again, we're building relationships throughout our whole life here. Okay, guys? So what I do suggest is doing market research. And this can be as informal or as formal as you want to do it. Ask people, so like, let's say you have a cafe or you have a brick and mortar. Ask people what they want in face-to-face conversations. Super simple. You can also, if you're more like an online, or maybe you're just not ready to kind of like have that conversation with people, you can do surveys as well. You can poll people through your IG stories. Whatever method you feel comfortable at your stage. Okay. And then once you kind of start gathering this research, start to really analyze the patterns that come up, right? So if you're that cafe and people are like, well, I really want vegan options near me, you know, or I just really don't have time, you know, to make something healthy, then you are starting to gather all this information. You're starting to gather these patterns. So once you have this, use that same language that your ideal customer used in your marketing, okay? Use their own words to address their pain points and to offer your solutions. All right, guys. So I did want to talk a little bit about this point, which was like, when you market to them, it's not necessarily about differentiating yourself from competitors. A lot of people think that they have to do something completely different to make themselves stand out, that they have to reinvent the wheel somehow to make themselves stand out in the marketplace. You don't have to do that, okay? When you market to them, you're not having to differentiate yourself. All you are doing is you are seeing how you are the right fit for your ideal client or customer, okay? Again, let me repeat that. It's about you being the right fit for that particular person. It's not about being super different. All right, guys? So again, let me take my meal prep example. My meal prep clients could have gone with any healthy, delicious, convenient meal prep company out there. But none of those companies have representatives walking into Mommy and Me classes and personally saying hello to mothers, okay, AKA my potential clients. None of those larger companies were chatting with mothers in mommy groups on Facebook, and none of them were marketing to them using their own language, their pain points, and what they wanted, plain and simple, right? So again, a big part of this, a big part of how you package your messaging and how you communicate is, how are you relating to your ideal client better than your competition? Okay. Just because someone else has had their cafe open for longer, or maybe they have gotten recognitions or awards, that brand or business may not be the right fit for your specific ideal client. That's why it all comes back to point number one: identify your ideal client. Okay. Let me give you another example. My ideal clients for the meal prep business related best to me than, say, other meal prep companies out there, because I was a woman chef addressing a woman's needs. Okay? I am not a mother, and I didn't need to be to serve this particular ideal client. But the fact that I was a woman, that I was personalizing my interactions with them, that I was receptive to their preferences, their feedback, and they felt comfortable talking to me about what they were going through, was what made all of the difference in them becoming my clients. So think about that emotional connection to your ideal client. Okay, so I want you to jot this down. You know, an emotional connection. How can you just relate to them emotionally? What's gonna pull on their heartstrings to make you be like, or to make them be like, I really need this, like, or I really like them? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be the first interaction with your brand, not even your product. okay? Not even your service. It's going to be that first interaction with your brand, and they're going to have to be like, I really like them, okay? And that's what's going to make them feel like they can relate to you or like you or be curious about you, okay? So I also want you to think about this. How is your product, cafe, restaurant, etc., just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit different that makes it just a little bit better for your ideal client? What is that tiny little thing that's going to make them resonate with you instead of someone down the street? Okay. So I did want to take one more example, and we're going to use that same vegan, healthy Mediterranean example. Okay, so let's say that's you. Why should they buy from your healthy vegan Mediterranean cafe instead of getting a healthy vegan wrap that is sitting in the office building lobby cafe downstairs? You know, like those packaged ones that just like are sitting in the fridge. Why should they go to you instead of getting that? To me, it's a no-brainer, right? To you, it could be a no-brainer. But to your ideal clients, or to your clients, your potential clients, it could not be so easy, right? So here's maybe some things that would differentiate you, or that would help, would be a good fit for them. So maybe you use fresh ingredients with food that you also make fresh right then and there. Maybe you use organic. Maybe you do vegan kebabs with the Beyond Meat, which is all the rage right now and people are becoming increasingly familiar with. And again, what you do in your business should revolve around your ideal client. Always, always, always. This business is not necessarily about you. Of course, it's about your passion or your motivation of why you started the business, right? Of course, there is that factor. But when you're actually wanting to sell, like if we get down to like the business, this is not about you. This is about your ideal client, okay? So what you say in your marketing has to be super intentional and super strategic around that ideal client. The minute that you understand this, your business changes, okay? Because all you have to do is keep up that messaging over and over, repetitively. That's okay. So ask yourself this: how can I position myself, my business, my product to be the right fit for my ideal client? How do I craft my image, my message, my packaging even to target my ideal client? It goes back to how your approach is the right fit and how you can relate. So it's always back to that emotional connection and building those relationships. All right.
I'm going to share a story if I can. This is one that Steph and I talked about before the conversation. I have a friend, her name is Charlotte Smith. She is a farmer. Her and her husband own a beautiful farm in Oregon. And in the beginning, they struggled to sell their pasture-raised meats, particularly at a price point that people were willing to pay. And she sat down and thought about who is her ideal client. And what she came up with after doing some market research was that women are typically the decision makers when it comes to purchasing groceries and grocery items that come into the home to be prepared inside of the home. So she thought, okay, I'm going to target women because we sell at farmers markets and we do online sales. And so women are typically responsible for making those purchases. There's also a really big market for pasture-raised meats in the paleo Whole30, industry. Mm-hmm. And so she, level one was I'm going to speak to women. Level two is I'm going to speak to health conscious women, particularly those who believe that meat is an important part of a healthy diet and who follow the paleo, diet and recipes. And so then everything that she presented to her customers via her newsletter, on her table at the farmer's market, in social media, however she was communicating, was always with the idea in mind that she was talking to a woman who was making a decision for herself, her spouse, and her family, and was going to be preparing this food in a paleo way. I don't follow paleo, so I don't know the right terminology, and what happened was her sales increased But it wasn't that she only was selling to women who follow a paleo diet. She was also selling to men and to women who didn't follow the paleo diet. And it was because there was information in the message that also spoke to other people, but she didn't really have to think about that. You know what I mean? So people who cared about pasture-raised meats and people who cared about where their food came from and people who cared about how their food was raised, they were also hearing that message and becoming clients of hers. But the main communication and focus was on that female client who was making the household decision. So for me, that was an eye-opening example that she gave, because it's not like you're eliminating anybody from the conversation. You're just targeting the conversation, and the other folks will kind of take what they want to from it.
Exactly. I think that's a great point, Sarah, especially because I feel like a lot of folks are really scared of niching down and having a target audience because they feel like they're going to leave money on the table with all of their other customers.
Right.
Which is totally not the case. I mean, as indicated by your example. When you have a niche, when you have an ideal client or you have a niche, that means that you're actually able to reach the people who really, really want your product. And you're able to reach the people that are going to be repeat customers so that you can sustain your business.
Yeah.
And not only are they going to be repeat customers, but they're going to be people who are spreading the good gospel about your company. And you're going to get recommendations and referrals and all of that stuff. So when you niche down, you actually target your message to reach a particular person. But again, you're not alienating anybody, because the people who care about what you're saying are still going to come and flock to you no matter what.
Awesome. So we have about 10 minutes left. Mm-hmm. So we're going to carry on with the presentation. And then if there are any more questions, go ahead and you can start raising your hand or sending them through the chat. And we'll try to fit everything in the last 10 minutes we have here.
Awesome. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's about how you make your ideal client see your stuff and they go, wow, that is for me. It's specifically for me and my needs. I need that right now. So that's kind of the reaction that you're going for. Okay, guys? So what I want to do now is just kind of do a quick summary of today's key takeaways to building the foundation to a profitable food business. So number one, it's identifying your ideal client by creating a profile for them, identifying their pain points and the solutions that your food business offers. Number two, find your ideal clients on and offline and build relationships with them. Have patience, play the long game, it's going to pay off. Number three is craft your offerings to target your ideal client by conducting market research and using the client's words and pain points to sell your products. All right, guys. So that is it for my summary and presentation. If you guys have any questions for Sarah and I, please feel free to ask them.
While we're waiting for any questions to come through, there was one other thought that I had, kind of connecting this back to the first conversation. It's when you know what's important to your ideal client, right, and what they're looking for and what makes them your ideal client, when you relate that to educating them about what you're doing, you know what to hit on. And so one of the things I talked about was, in an example I gave in the first conversation, was if you don't source organic, like certified organic products, and you know that your products still truly meet the needs of your customers, mm-hmm. Your ideal customer, when they come to you and they ask the question, are your products certified organic? You know, okay, I can answer the question no, but I'm prepared with information that will satisfy them, that will make them still feel comfortable about my products, because in the example I gave, we were sourcing locally and we were sourcing from farmers and producers who were going beyond the organic certification, not using any chemicals or sprays. So even if that, like, sort of initial communication with your client, when it, you know, taking it back to your food sourcing, when that answer is no, I don't meet that specific need of yours, but here are the needs that I do meet. So it just also, beyond that initial communication and initial securing of business, you're able to really inform them, I think, in a way that's beneficial to both of you.
Absolutely. And I think that's such an important point because it does fall on you as a business owner to really educate your ideal clients, to really educate your audience as to why you're still a great choice for them. And I think that it's great to have something prepared to say when you are both on and offline connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it does fall on you to educate them. And I think that's such a good thing anyways, because then you are able to, in essence, advertise your product because you're saying all of these other good things about it. And people can be like, like, okay, that's really cool. Like, or, I never thought about it that way. Or I never,
Yeah.
You switch their mindset about what they thought initially. And that is such a big psychological point when it comes to marketing and selling.
Totally. So with about 8 minutes left, I want to open it up. I wasn't planning on doing this, but if anybody was keeping notes as you were going and jotting things down, and if you got stuck anywhere, or if you have a specific question about your business, your situation, we're open to answering that question for you and as an example for the group. Otherwise, I know that Stephanie is going to be sending a follow-up. And do you want to kind of share your Instagram information and how they can reach you if they have any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram is @foodbizcoach. And I'm sending you an email with all of our summaries, or our summary for today and the slides. So if you're like a super visual person, I'm sending you the slides. And all of my contact information will be there on the email as well.
Amazing. And if anybody attended this conversation and didn't attend last conversation, shoot me an email. I'm happy to share the download link for you to review the conversation about educating your customers and your staff about food sourcing if that's something that's of interest to you. But thank you again, Stephanie. I thought this was really helpful. I think the summary is going to be really helpful for people to take away, and they can. Oh, we've got a comment coming through. Let's see.
Oh, cool.
See what it says. Someone's interested in the food sourcing. You got it. I will send that to you for sure. So thank you so much. We're having another conversation, I think in about 2 weeks. It'll just be me this time. We're going to talk about food costs, and we're going to talk about pricing and improving profitability. So I'm super excited about that. In the meantime, you'll get Stephanie's information. You'll get a link to review this conversation whenever you'd like, and you have our information. So reach out to us if you have any other questions. We appreciate your time, you guys. Wish you the best of luck with your businesses, and we'll hopefully meet you in person someday soon.
Yes. Thanks,
Bye,
guys. Have a great day.